Objective 2.5. So we'll start with the phrenic nerves. So the right and left phrenic nerves arise from C3, C4, and C5. Remember 3, 4, 5 keep you alive, and they pass through the superior thoracic aperture, and then they go medially to the lungs and laterally to the pericardium on both sides, eventually descending into the diaphragm where they provide its main motor supply. The vagus nerve arises bilaterally from the medulla of the brainstem, and it passes down through the neck, and then the right vagus nerve enters the thorax and the mediastinum between the right common carotid and the right subclavian, and it passes anterior, so in front of the right subclavian, and then the right recurrent laryngeal nerve hooks off right here, and it goes back up under the right subclavian and then up to the larynx. The left vagus nerve enters the thorax and mediastinum between the left common carotid and the left subclavian, and it travels down to the inferior border of the arch of the aorta. This is where we see the left recurrent laryngeal nerve hook off and then travel up to the larynx. And then the right and left vagus nerves continue inferiorly. And then right here we can see the right vagus nerve. It continues to travel inferiorly, and both the right and left vagus nerves will give off branches of the cardiac and pulmonary plexus, the esophageal plexus, and then eventually they descend into the abdomen as the anterior and posterior vagal trunks, but we will only see the anterior one here. So now lastly, we're going to talk about the sympathetic trunk. So the sympathetic trunk you will see on both sides of the vertebral column. And the greater splanchnic nerves arise from T5, T6, T7, T8, and T9. And that makes the greater splanchnic nerves. And note that these nerves do not synapse on the sympathetic trunk. And then T10 and T11 will give us the lesser splanchnic nerve. And then T12 will give us the least. And in the body, we can see these from medial to lateral, greater, lesser, and least. Greater will be the most medial, and then you will have the lesser, and then lastly, you will have the least.